created some slides here, which is a little bit of Toga propaganda as well. I just thought I'd slip some product shots in also. So I've been asked to come here tonight just to talk about some key trends in the industry, and I have to say I'm no industry expert. Everybody here is an expert as well, so I'm really just here to talk about what's going on with Toga. So yes, I head up our international sales team, and so we look after all the inbound sales for all of our brands, and also domestic wholesale and a little bit of outbound. So just a bit of background about Toga so you know what context I'm coming from. We've been around since 1982, since the first inception of our first Medina service department it was at the time. And today we are set to be the third largest hotel operator in Australia, and we operate under the 4 unique brands. So you can see them here. So we've got 2 apartment hotel brands. So we have Adina Apartment Hotels and Medina Service Departments. We've got 2 hotel style brands. So we've got Vibe Hotels and Travelodge Hotels. Of course, you're all familiar with all of those brands here. We have Adina in Europe and we have Travelodge in New Zealand as well. So we also look after outbound sales for those hotels. So across our spread, not only do we have apartments, but we have hotel style as well, and we start at 3.5 up to 4.5 star across our brands as well. So because of that spread in our accommodation, we do cater for many inbound markets. We cater for the Asian markets, Western markets, domestic wholesale is very big for us as well. So we do have a lot of scope, and therefore our inbound markets are very much influenced by outside factors and the world economy and that kind of thing, and of course, you know, in our daily lives we're all affected by that as well in whatever our roles are. But I thought tonight I would just highlight 3 key trends that I'm noticing in my team at the moment, which are all challenges, but they're also opportunities as well that I think that we could all take a holistic approach in the industry to try and tackle, and also celebrate, of course. So, propaganda slide number 1. First trend that I wanted to talk about was, of course, the impact to our hotels on the increasing visitor numbers and the markets that are really influencing our increase in inbound business at our hotels. So, as we all know, inbound holiday visitation is set to increase by 4.5% this year. And from a Toga Hotels perspective, our biggest growth markets are, of course, China. Although the numbers are set to be less than, growth numbers are set to be less than in previous years, so we may see a little downturn as far as our hotels go, although it is still providing the largest numbers of inbound visitation to our hotels. Definitely a huge growth in the Southeast Asian markets, so Malaysia and Singapore are increasingly very much growing for us at Toga, and I would put that down to the low-cost carrier increase in capacity into areas such as Darwin and the Gold Coast as well, where we've got properties. India, I've just come back from a trip to India. As some of you know, I attended the ITM with Tourism Australia. It was a very successful event, and Fleur as well. And the big news there, of course, is Air India flying now direct from Delhi into Sydney and Melbourne. We are hoping that is continue to be a successful launch, and they do fly from Mumbai as well, because that's our number 1 city out of India for us at Toga. And another big growth market for us is in the western side, US and New Zealand. New Zealand has been a little on the decrease for us at Toga. I think Australia is just quite an expensive place to go, so perhaps there are other options out there for them. But as we look towards the 14 and 15 seasons, our numbers are so strong, especially in the US market. With our series that we've got at the moment, we've got some fantastic holdings, and they're increasing. They want more and more and more and more rooms, and we're talking, you know, much into 2015 as far up to March. So we've got quite a lot of demand from those markets as well. So that's all good news. The second trend is, although of course Asia does set to represent nearly 50% of our inbound arrivals within the next few years, we do face a current, hopefully short-term challenge with our Chinese inbound group numbers due to the new China tourism law. So I know you're all sitting there and very studiously taking notes whilst listening to me babble on, but I was wondering if anybody out there, not Lilu, would like to talk about the new China tourism law and maybe what it means just in general as what's happening as far as 1 October. Does anyone know? Want to volunteer? Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe it could be partly mentioned last week with Asian markets, but no shopping or the shopping centres and that sort of thing aren't allowed to subsidise trips.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right. So as of 1st of October, this is my lay explanation of what the law means, reading many translations of it over the past few months. It protects the consumer and the Chinese traveller, so basically no longer can operators be selling unlawfully low-priced package trips in order to get visitors into Australia and subsidise it, as you said, by the shopping tours, so making commissions off shops and that kind of thing, keeping the markdowns really low on what we might pass on as an accommodation provider as far as a hotel rate goes. So they keep all of those margins really low, so the price, to go to Australia, oh my gosh, that looks like an amazing deal. Let's go as a big group, and then when they get here, they, go to a lot of these shopping duty-free shops and things like that, and then party X and party Y get their little cuts out of that, so it's just to protect the consumer. So along with that as well, it has scared off some of the retailers and wholesalers as far as within the market as well in China. They are, as far as I can understand, personally responsible for what happens here in Australia, so it has scared them off a little bit because they can financially be viable. If I'm a traveller and I've come to Australia from China, I go back and I say they took me to 2 shops and that was not on the itinerary. If I report that, then my agent can actually be financially responsible and have to reimburse the price to me. I can get my trip back. So there is quite a financial risk there as well in Australia. Our market intelligence shows that the price difference of a tour to Australia from northern China is probably the most affected. The price of a package tour would increase between $1,000 and $1,500 in total. From the eastern China markets, an increase of between $800 to $1,000 on the total package cost. And in southern China, a little less affected, but there will still probably be an increase of about $500. That's what we're hearing in the market as to what they're having to actually sell. Yes?
Can I ask a question
before
you continue on?
Yeah.
Just with that, with all the documentation on this new law, and as you can see, you can't completely understand what they're saying. I don't know if I've got it right, but is it trying to cut down from larger groups coming all at once, like in one group, or is that just in between lines that I've read? When I was reading it, it's like the price is going to increase, and they're kind of getting people, trying to encourage people to travel in smaller numbers and come over in larger numbers, but whether or not, that was just my take on the in between lines of what I read. Yeah.
Well, it happened in the Japan market many years ago as well, and then we saw the abolishment of these shopping tours, and we're seeing more Japanese numbers come back in your FIT numbers and things like that. I'm not sure that it's a specific control by the government on trying to decrease actual group size numbers. Yeah. It's just another method of control to stop the consumer from being ripped off, basically.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's so many.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's quite convoluted, but that's the basic message. And I think in the short term, we at Toga have, I can be honest, and seen a bit of a downturn for October. But I can also say that November is looking really strong at this stage. So I have hopes that it's only a short-term effect on the industry at the moment. What's going to happen in the hotel world is that these shopping tours are traditionally based in hotels outside of CBD areas as well. So therefore, it sounds terrible, but the guests couldn't just leave the hotels and go out and walk and do their own shopping, so they don't have to be forced into these shops. So, you know, they would stay out in suburban areas of CBDs and that kind of thing. So now that they're not mandated to stay out there, I would see a shift and with a slight downturn in numbers as well, with CBD hotels now fighting for more and more Asian group business. So the business that will still be returning, coming to Australia, there'll be a lot of competition from CBD hotels. So they would potentially be trying to drive inbound numbers from China within the city, and you'll see a downturn in actual prices there for groups. So for a company like Toga, for example, we've got Travelodge hotels that are very popular in the Asian inbound markets as well. That's going to be something that we need to watch really carefully as far as our numbers moving forward, and how competition that perhaps wasn't previously a competitor for us, which was a CBD hotel, which was getting a different type of inbound group, may start to try and come in and take some of the market share, but that's just going to happen with a slow in demand, hopefully short term. Last but not least, I just thought I would mention that, and I think again this is something that we need to work on as more of a holistic approach from the industries, that I see inbound tourism dispersal into regional areas and areas other than the east coast of Australia, basically, your main touristy areas, isn't increasing as much as I would like to see it. Of course, from a Toga perspective, we're about to open our second Travelodge hotel in Hobart, for example. We're building a Vibe hotel in Marysville, which is in country Victoria. And of course, you know, the pressure is there. How much inbound business can you get? And at the end of the day, if the industry as a whole isn't, you know, we can't get the travellers to be going to these locations at the numbers that we would like to see. I mean, the numbers look fantastic, and we can see the arrival numbers are looking really, you know, amazing, shiny numbers for the years to come. But if we can't get them to disperse and spend their money outside of the capital cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Gold Coast, Cairns is very much your traditional itinerary for the Asian market, especially. We see a lot of Western markets travelling to other areas, which is fantastic. But it does hinder growth for regional tourism if we can't get some of that business to head elsewhere other than those capitals. So that's it for me. Was there any other questions?
I'd just be interested to know the mix of inbound to domestic. Like you were just saying, opening more regional properties and very much looking at trying to get the inbound guests to go to those places as well. But what about the domestic?
Absolutely.
Tourists?
Yeah.
Is it still fairly strong?
Yeah. So domestic would definitely be our focus. So, you know, we look to see to markets, for example, if I just isolate Hobart, we look to see operators who are targeting inbound business and markets from internationally. But of course, we definitely need to work with the domestic wholesalers as well and make sure that anything that's travelling through Hobart is that we've looked at all of those opportunities. So yeah, domestic business from that perspective in any of our regional areas is definitely where our focus is, but we would like to see that there is even an opportunity to target some other markets as far as inbound goes for those hotels.
So how do you go about targeting the international market or your regional?
So we would work definitely with the STOs and the regional tourism offices as well. So again, using Hobart as an example, we'll be working with Tourism Tas and the local tourism bureaus to make sure that we're part of any campaign opportunities, any promotional opportunities. We work with any of the tour operators and any of the inbound tour operators and wholesalers to be part of any familial opportunities and just try and get the awareness out there. So we know that, you know, I might just be concerned about 2 travel lodges in Hobart, but as a whole, the tourism industry for Tasmania is really crying out for more and more inbound business. So if we can be part of that pie in any way, shape or form and support it from that end, I think it's important that all the tourism operators get together and they're as supportive as they can be, because we can't just sit there and hope that it comes. So yeah, we definitely, that would be our first starting point, is to work with the tourism bodies for sure.